Girl, I've been watching you from so far across the floor now, baby. That's nothing new. I've watched you so many times before now, baby. I see that look in your eyes, and what it's telling me. And you know, ooh, girl, that I'm not shy. I'm glad you picked up on my telepathy now, baby. My girl, I wanna shake you down. Well, I can give you all the love you need. Oh, baby, come on, let me shake you down. Well, we'll go all the way to heaven. Ooh, I've been missing you, and the way you make me feel inside. What can I do?
Oh, kia ora, kia ora, kia ora, te whānau. I thought I'd cut that one short, so that clip was glitchy, which indicates to me that I may have problems with my connection. So yesterday I had a kōrero about the article that was put up with, it was a bit of a hit against my name. And, that they're after all of us that are in the freedom space, that are running for local government. They're trying to associate us to Voices for Freedom. I've had absolutely nothing to do with Voices for Freedom, everything to do with my community and Outdoors and Freedom Party. So, even the heading that they had on my article, which apparently has gone viral within the media space. But I'm not the only one. So what I wanted to, I do want to play a video recording of the survivor, Nazi survivor, Vera Sharav. But I'm anticipating I'm probably going to have glitching with that as well, since I had glitches with that waiata. So I'm going to play that first, and then I want to come back to all this, the media attack on those of us in the freedom space trying to attack our integrity. They're obviously running scared. The article, I did answer questions for Aidan Miles Moringa, and I also gave a backstory to my papa. The fact that he put absolutely no mention about that backstory spoke volumes to me, and it was an attack. And there's been a lot of attacks, and I want to bring a certain group to your attention who are trying to identify us in this freedom space. They're trying to argue that we are a challenge to democracy. We are not a challenge to democracy. We're actually trying to protect our democracy. It's a smokescreen. The media and the government are all part of it. So, hey, that's the environment we're in, and we've got to stand tuturu. We've got to be staunch. We've got to stand tall. But hopefully, whānau, I can share Vera Sharav's. I have watched it. It is about 26 minutes, so I hope you're good to watch it. If I have any glitches in it, I'm going to stop it. But, she's entitled to her view. She is a survivor at the end of the day of fascism, of tyranny, and what she's doing is associating our experience to her experience, and how she lost her family, and how there are similar things happening that happened back in her time as a very young child. So I won't say any more, Whānau. You look at her and she reminds you of one of your nannies. And it takes courage. It takes courage for all of us to get up and stand and swim against the tide. But I am so adamant that, and I believe wholeheartedly in my heart, there's something very, very, very kino going on. So, okay, I'll stop talking and I will share. And then we'll come back and talk about these smear campaigns, the witch hunt. It's shocking, actually. So much for free speech. And these people are trying to put across to the rest of the world that they are protecting democracy. Wow. E ki ra. Anyway, whānau, I talk too much. I know that. So I'm going to shush. I'm going to mute. Please let me know straight away, because there are, in my settings, there are a number of settings, and I thought I had it down packed where I can mute and then you can hear what's been said. But can you please let me know straight away if you can't hear it, and I'll have to do with it. Remember, I'm my own IT man or woman, this nanny. Okay, so bear with me, and I love your patience.
Our home in Romania to Ukraine.
Okay, whānau. So I've just read from Stephanie, and Stephanie Cooper said, well, I find it interesting. Stephanie Cooper said, I shared it on my Facebook my page in my comments and got a serious growling from Facebook, LOL. And Facebook removed it. Okay. Well, my page is yeah, and I guess that's what Russell Brand and the reporter he was interviewing was stating, that we're absolutely restricted by the owners of these platforms, right? And if you don't support the narrative, and this woman is a survivor of Nazi Germany, and so yeah, I'm not too sure. I just don't want my page to be, I don't want to be in Facebook jail. It's basically, it might be just, yeah. I might go back to the original corridor. I don't think I'm going to share this. You can try and look for her yourself. It's a Nazi survivor, Vera Sharav, Sharv. And she speaks on her concerns, and she compares it to the WEF and what's going on with the global elite today. The problem is they, like you saw in Russell Brand's clip yesterday, we are controlled. And when we lose the media, we've lost. Well, the thing is, we have social media, but we're censored in social media, so we're still losing. What I want to bring your attention to, what else are you saying, Fane? Yeah, we need a decentralized platform. And I know, well, here's the thing. We do have all these other platforms that people are moving over to, those from the freedom space that get censored so much. I mean, even Russell Brand gets censored. All of these commentators get censored, and so they go onto other platforms. The problem is that we are creatures of habit. And we can go on to these other platforms, like I've set up a MeWe platform, and a few of yous come over, but the rest of yous stayed in this platform, and there lies the problem. There lies the problem. So I don't want to put this my page at risk, because I also use it for campaigning as well. But what I do want to talk about is what's going on with all of us who are standing for local government, and how there's a witch hunt. There's an absolute witch hunt out there for us. And there's a group called Fact Aotearoa, and they stand against misinformation spreading, and they say they're independent. They say they are non-governmental, and they say that they are self-funded, volunteer, resource-based for media, health professional, activists, educators. So anyway, I thought I'd go and have a bit of a nosy on the platform, on the website. And they say, we've been working with media outlets. Well, that in itself, whānau, is a red flag. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, and around the world, to shine a light on those that are spreading the misinformation that is harming our society. Well, remember, it's not Donna Pokere-Phillips that has harmed the society. It's not Donna Pokere-Phillips that because of her actions, her papa has died of vaccine injuries. So let's just be really clear, right? Let's just be really clear about what they're saying and what's reality. So they're saying they've got, so see some of their published work. So I went down, and hello, the first article was about our lovely Sue Gray. Says how Sue Gray became conspiracy theorist go-to lawyer, April 11, 2022. And so they've got this massive big article on her. And then they've got the next one is Voices for Freedom. And Radio New Zealand's Tim Brown follows the money, and said there's large sums of money traded hands during and leading up to the 23-day occupation. And then there's they've been on One News Breakfast. Never seen any of our people be on One News Breakfast. Hey, and they talk about Parliament protests and litters the internet with evidence. I mean, Fact Aotearoa on Radio New Zealand, Media Watch. Yeah, there's just lots and lots and lots of different articles. Hundreds of New Zealanders join the fight against misinformation. Wow. And this is January of this year. It's just lies and misinformation, and it's actually killing people. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's killing people, they're saying, this misinformation. Here's the problem. We don't have proper debate. We don't have robust debate. All we have is propaganda pushed by organisations like this Fact Aotearoa, or we have propaganda push by the media, like fire and fury. Okay, whether or not you like Sean Plunkett or not, I've worked with him in the past. He's an investigative journalist. He's old school journalism, and I do agree with some things he says, and I don't agree with some things that he says, and he probably does the same with me. But at least he gives you the right to reply. When a media outlet go on an attack and don't give you the right of reply, then they're creating propaganda. At least the article piece with me, yes, they asked all the questions, but as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't a balanced article because they didn't talk about me and my whānau's experience. And I have evidence in regards to what happened to my father all the way through when he was in and out of hospital. And so, even if there was 1, 2, or 3 people that died of this vaccine, it should have been enough to at least get the government to investigate. The fact of the matter is that they ran down our coronial system, and they didn't investigate concerns last year when they were raised, raises a red flag. And that, my friends, is killing people. It's killing people, not misinformation and disinformation. So anyway, go check their website out, factaotearoa.nz, and they're also on Facebook, and follow them. Okay, there's also a number of people that have been identified in Stuff Media as, like, for example, Stuff has spoken about the conspiracy theorist groundswell is trying to weed out. And so they're talking about groundswell is trying to distance itself from anti-vaxxers and disinformation. But they call groundswell, who are farmers, right? Conspiracy theorists. So everyone's a conspiracy theorist. Everyone. And I'm hoha with that terminology of conspiracy theorists. Hoha. Because at what point is groundswell? At what point are they conspiracy theorists? Just because they have their right to challenge their government. And you listen to Russell Brand's, and he's my go-to man in regards to commentating on the issues that we face today. And I've got another really good video lined up for you of his. And again, it's how the elite, the power elite, the elected elite, how they just go around protecting themselves. And this is, yesterday I said, big pharma are not your friends. Governments are not your friends. Big tech are not your friends. And big corporations are not your friends. They are all about themselves. But they use what we really care about, and they weaponize it. And they turn it into fear, and they use the media to do that. So the media is their propaganda tool. And there's a whole, we need to go back to this documentary that shows just how influential the media is. And I think I did a live on it last year sometime. Out of the Shadows, I think it was called. Documentary, amazing documentary, and it was about this guy who was he worked in the entertainment industry, and he was a body double, and he would what do you call him, where he does all the dangerous work, and he started to realize after years of being in that arena just how evil and corrupt it was. But anyway, that's sort of another issue, but I might sort of regurgitate that, because that's about the power of the media. That's about brainwashing, and that's about music, videos, film industry, all being used to dumb us down, to influence the way that we think. So it's quite a fascinating documentary, Out of the Shadows. But anyway, so you know, there's the Groundswell article, there's the you know, the attack on Chantal, and there's the they go through and they name a number of people that are running for local government in Wellington, in Hamilton, in Whakatane, you know, and they're trying to associate us all to Voices for Freedom, which I have absolutely nothing to do with, that organisation. And I've been on their website. They share some good information, but you know, just kia tūpato is what I'm saying. That, you know, there's a Canterbury candidate who is classed as a conspiracy theorist and links to conspiracy. So they're on a witch hunt. They're on a witch hunt to I guess takahi on our mana, and bring our integrity into question. And you know, and what they do is they just flick you a few questions. They don't even interview you; they just flick you a few questions. But I think it's really, really important that we all stand up for our rights to speak our own truth. We all come from very different backgrounds, and we all have complex backgrounds as well. But anyway, whānau, they also go into, this is fact Aotearoa, go into the documentary Fire and Fury, and they, you know, they put that it's showing a lens on hate and violence in Aotearoa. The hate and violence. I was down there for a whole week at the occupation, and all I saw was aroha. And I saw more hate and violence by the police than I saw by the occupation itself, right? So there's always two sides to a story. And if you only hear one side of the story, you're not hearing the full story. And we as Māori know that, because our history was never told. And our history has only become been put in the forefront, and it's going to be told in schools. We are concerned as to whose lens and whose version of that history, which is always a concern. But anyway, you know, when they say put a lens of hate and violence, it's implying that the occupiers were sharing hate and were violent. And I saw the absolute, it was like a carnival affair. And I've been into protests, and I've been where the police have been violent. I mean, I was arrested at a protest, and I'm still carrying the injuries from 2 years ago, where a young Māori cop assaulted me big time and did a lot of injury. So, you know, the violence is coming from the police force. You know, I'm a nanny, and I was just protesting more to protect the queer that was being assaulted by the police at that time. So, and I was there to do interviews and interview kaumata, and got myself caught up in the middle of it, got arrested, got thrown into jail. And I may just have got the Māori Party over the line through that arrest, because they happened 4 days before the election. So I was all over the media. But anyway, you know, I walk the talk. I don't just talk the talk. I walk the the talk. I'm going to shush now, and I'm going to share Russell Brand's kōrero, and this is going to be an interesting one as well. What is it about? It's about hang on, sorry, I'm just setting it up. It's taking a while. My connection here is actually much better, but today it's just been a bit sensitive. Anyway, whānau, I'm just getting this video set up. It's about President George W. Bush, about him setting up a master class, right? And just how, I always talk about the left and right wing of the same bird. And someone used the analogy of the left and right cheek of the same nono, and I thought that was funny, but I've always used that terminology. And he's talking about the Democrats and the Liberals over in the US. He's talking about George W. Bush, his masterclass, and life lessons. But what I think the video is about is normalizing war criminals and making them sound like they're heroes. And I mean, that's what we're starting to see through the media, that the good people are made out to be the criminals and the criminals are made out to be the heroes. And that's what we're seeing in the shift in the media. And I think that this is a good example, like how I've been vilified. It doesn't bother me really what the media says about me. I know me. I know my heart. I know what I'm about. I know who I am, and they can say whatever they want, really. I don't give a rat's whatever. Hey, and you cannot be doing this type of mahi and be too sensitive about that. And I tell you, you've got to go through a loss that I've gone through to say to the whole world, that have created this ngangara, this horrible environment that we're in, is to say, man, we will have accountability, we will have justice, and we will create the society that we're all entitled to. And you can no longer hide behind the veil of your political seat anymore. And you can no longer hide behind your unelected organization and have that same influence, because it's not going to wash anymore. Anyway, I am going to now share it. And please, I'm going to mute it, so let me know if you can't hear, and I'll have to have a tutu with the settings.
That when it comes to the crunch, Liberals have no principles at all. Hello there, you 5.8 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining me on this voyage towards truth. There is a great light within us as it continues effulgently to unfold. We welcome these new kingdoms of connection that we create between us. That's what I do. If you ain't subscribed yet, why don't you subscribe now? Subscribe right away. Turn on the notification bell so that you're informed every time we make one of these videos, in case the algorithm is our enemy, a sort of digital serpent preventing you from becoming awakened. Today we want to talk to you about the establishment's tendency to reintroduce old villains as new heroes, whether it's Democrats crossing the floor to shake hands with Dick Cheney, who I feel like profited from the death of children, or George W. Bush being presented as some lovely cuddly old uncle. Now, I've got no problem with that. It's just I remember at the time the whole Democrat Party establishment referred to George W. Bush as some sort of cowboy, buckaroo, dimwit, half-assed twerp. And now it seems like they want to celebrate him. It makes me wonder, are we just 10 years away from liberals saying that Donald Trump was good old Uncle Democracy? Again, I know loads of you love this party or that party or this team or that team, and I think by now you know that I don't particularly care for any of them. I'm just interested in asking the question, is the establishment so interested in its self-preservation that really, within its confines, there's no such thing as an outcast or a villain? Everyone will be rehabilitated eventually. The reason we're asking this question is because George W. Bush has done a masterclass on things like how to make tough calls and life lessons. Shall we kill these children? There's money in it. We shall kill these children. Let's have a look.
The chief executive has got to be bold within reason and daring in application.
Like, this was unthinkable. They hated him. You might not be old enough to remember. They hated him. Oh, George W. Bush, when they took all the W's out of the bloody typewriters when they left the White House, when the Clintons left the White House. At the time, when it was convenient, when it suited them, this guy was portrayed as a monster, a villain. And even looking back at the things that were said about Trump during his presidency, he's a foreign character, children in cages. I think those cages were built by Barack Obama. Like, you start to realize that it's just political rhetoric, that these figures are cast as abominable just to create the idea of contrast between two figures who ultimately, presidential figures I mean in this case, who ultimately are in the service of the same system. And the way we know this, just wait a little while and this guy will be introduced to you as dear old Uncle Democracy. Oh, Donald Trump is ever so bad. Just wait for 10 years when he's a bit more doddering and senile. The Democrats will probably let him run as a potential president.
I recognize very few people watching this will become president, but I think you'll find lessons in leadership that will apply to your life.
Are they really trying to tell you that this is a school for presidents? That's still the sustaining and enduring myth of America, isn't it? Anyone, literally anyone, can become president. Literally any member of the Clinton family or the Bush family can become president. I don't learn from these people. Look at, they're all being lined up now like it's a movie poster.
As president, sometimes I had information the American people didn't know.
Maybe I can make more money if we do kill these Iraqi kids.
And therefore I had to make decisions what was best for the country on knowledge that wasn't evident.
It's difficult to know there whether he's talking about highly esoteric, concealed information only accessible to top officials, or lies like there are no weapons of mass destruction, we're going to bomb Iraq anyway.
That's just the nature of leadership. So long as you're guided by principle.
Look, it's tying it to the mythic figures of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. As a person that don't know much about American history, I only recently learned that Lincoln was a Republican, that the Democrat Party was a pro-slavery party. I'm just learning all of this stuff now. I'm astonished at the way that all the protagonists can order, the way that the narratives can order, and really that the function of these centralizing systems is the preservation of power, the protection of commercial and financial relationships, and the distraction of ordinary people. It's probably always been a bit like this, but as the power of technology is enhanced and increases, the ability to bewilder and distract people increases with it.
And so long as you're guided by a cause greater than self,
like money,
you can endure criticism because it's going to come.
Yeah, it will come, but then it'll go again. You'll get your own internet series, Hagiography, where you're presented as some lovely, cuddly old uncle.
One of the things I missed after the presidency was this daily learning, and thankfully painting came into my life. It's a learning experience because with every paint stroke...
That looks like something children do, doesn't it? I think I've seen my children actually do that. Right, put some paint on that one, put some paint on that one. Happy Mother's Day.
You learn something new. All right, I'm going to do another flower.
What's going on? Is this real? Is this really being presented as an education tool for the next generation of leaders? What this shows me is that the fields of entertainment and politics have become so fused because there are no legitimate principles at the core. Ultimately, it's rhetorical. It's recognized that this is just an exercise in distraction. It has no legitimate meaning. I'm not saying that nothing happens, that people aren't passing bills and signing legislature and running foundations and doing deals. I recognize all these things are happening. I'm just saying that the principles that are being espoused, the ideas that we're being sold are not legitimate.
It's important to have a set of priorities that guide you, and your team, your company, your managers have got to understand those priorities.
Here's some other information on George W. Bush that might help you to assess his presidency and what this tells you about the establishment and the way that these figures are celebrated. Bush and his underlings sold a campaign of outright lies to the public in order to embroil the United States in a totally unnecessary war that killed between 150,000 and 1 million Iraqis and destabilized an entire region. He instituted a worldwide torture regime that continues to be a stain on the United States' global image and which ensnared numerous innocent people. He instituted a vast, secret and illegal surveillance apparatus, most of which survives to this day. None of these things are, of course, covered in the course as he reclines gently in an armchair. I can tell you how to declare war on an innocent sovereign nation. Hell, this is one of my favorite paintings. This is a little Iraqi boy with all his limbs blown off. And this here, this is a picture of a telephone. And on the other end, there's a member of the NSA listening in on your call. What George Bush can really teach you is about the true nature of power. That he's part of an aristocracy, has been part of a technocracy, has been part of establishing spying networks that continue to this day, participating in global torture of innocent people, and instituted an unnecessary and illegal war, which we still suffer as a result of. Every time you take off your shoes in an airport, think, thank you, George W. Bush. The liberal preoccupation with symbolic gestures and saying the right thing also led them to largely give Barack Obama an 8-year pass for carrying out policies that were as bad as, and in some cases worse than, Bush's. If you're one of those people that still takes conventional bipartisan politics seriously, i.e. the Democrats and the Republicans are meaningfully different and your affiliation with one of those parties is going to have some sort of meaningful impact on the outcome of the democratic process, or if we really support George Bush, if we really support Obama, if we really support Clinton or Trump, it's going to really change the lives of ordinary Americans, then when you see a picture like Bush and Obama palling up to one another, you think, this doesn't make sense. I thought these people loathe one another. I thought they were fierce opponents. But actually, when you hear about the policies, the continuum of power, the continuity of policy that doesn't alter meaningfully regardless of the administration, then suddenly these photos make sense. It is one establishment, as Chomsky explained. Lively debate within narrow parameters distracts us from all the things we're not discussing. None of us are talking about the decentralization of power. None of us are discussing meaningful control over our own communities, the right to live however we want to, the right to pursue leisure, things that are enshrined in your constitution if you're an American and are understood by us from our Methodist traditions or our Magna Carta understanding. If we're British, wherever people are in the world, we understand that we want to have a decent relationship with ourselves, a relationship with a high principle, relationship with society and family, all these things we intuitively understand. Somehow we found ourselves utterly kowtowed by systems that see us as units of power, units of commerce, commodified and commodifying little entities with no autonomy in our own lives. How does this come about? By presenting us with a politics that is sort of a charade, the sort of a facade that presents characters that are vilified or deified during their moment in the sun, and then ultimately re-embraced once they've played their little part, once they've left the stage. Once the show's over, they can all dab each other down with towels and have a little martini together. In a sense, these systems require participants that can, of course, sustain and legitimize the systems themselves. In Britain, we have a monarchy, and the function of the monarchy is for them to appear special enough that we accept having this family that get all of this tax money and are themselves exempted from tax, but that are normal enough for us to feel connected to them. Look, they're just like us. They're a family and they've got babies. Here's a photo of them getting married. After a while, though, you start to question the validity of the system that they are totems of. If they're really special, why do we want a really special family? If they're just like us, why are we paying for them? If George Bush is just a normal old guy that does paintings, then how the fuck did he participate in the murder of all these children? Why did he institute a torture regime? And if those things are really, really bad, why is he being rehabilitated now? And if you can rehabilitate him, why is it so vitriolic when they're in office, when they're in the limelight? The answer to these questions don't make sense, because essentially what they do is reveal that the whole thing is a kind of marionette show where the figures that are pushed forth onto the stage don't really represent any meaningful change. The differences have to be accentuated to give you the idea that you're choosing something meaningful, when really all you're doing is pressing a button that's not plugged in. You're like a child sat in the backseat of a car with a stick-on steering wheel while the vehicle is driven by mummy and daddy. Bush's connection of 9/11 to Iraq was perhaps the deadliest conspiracy theory, aha, we like those, fake news or disinformation of the 21st century. I thought that was Joe Rogan taking ivermectin. On the home front, less than 2 months after 9/11 and weeks after Bush had already set up a secret surveillance program at the NSA, the Bush White House rammed through the Patriot Act. This long-time wish list of previously politically unthinkable proposals expanded the scope of national security surveillance and obliterated many of the key post-Wargate reforms of the 1970s. The FBI and Department of Justice criminalized and hounded supporters of Palestinian rights in the name of the war on terror, while Bush helped to censor information about the Saudis' role in the 9/11 attacks. The Saudis were, of course, long-time business partners of the Bush family. What the rehabilitation of Bush shows us is that once the necessity for a certain narrative expires, the truth can be revealed. Bush is one of us. The Bush family and the Saudi royal family had relationships with one another. Think of how explosive that information was at the time that the Twin Towers went down, at the time of the Iraq War, at the time of ongoing relationships with Saudi Arabia. So let's think about now. What do you think we're going to learn about Hunter Biden in the future? What do you think you're going to learn about Joe Biden's relationships in China and Ukraine in the future, in 10 years' time, when Joe Biden might still be president, but he's dead? He can't be any worse, can he?
To me, the most important priorities were my faith in my family and my friends. That may sound corny to some, but it helps you reorganize the rest of your life. Welcome, Darren.
Thanks, great. Glad to be here.
Well, just bring it out your wife now. What is this, Regis and Kelly? I'm going to teach you how to make all-American pancakes, and I'm going to show you how to blow up an oil field and kill children.
When I was speaking to audiences, I didn't want them to think I was smarter than they were.
Well, job done.
I remember right after 9/11 in the Oval Office talking about praying for families that had suffered loss. I broke down in tears. If your heart is touched, let people know that your heart is touched.
But this isn't actually valuable information, is it? This isn't like, oh yeah, right, if my heart is touched, let people... It's not going to help you be president, is it? This is not important information. This is further ornamentation of a decaying system. You know what needs to be done. Radical change has to be undertaken. A huge critical redress of our financial systems, of our media systems, of our corporate systems, of the ongoing progressive march to globalism. We're increasingly seeing unelected centralized bodies, WEF, WHO, IMF, they are beyond the reach of democracy, and figures like George Bush, Barack Obama, and I would even argue Donald Trump, are merely marionettes that temporarily occupy the stage, only to be brought on for an encore 10 years down the line where we forget about all the dead children.
Not everybody is going to be a leader, but everybody can end up being a better person. The challenge of life is not to attain wealth and status and power.
It is though, isn't it? It literally is. You can't sit there doing a masterclass about your time as a president, as a member of the Bush family, and say, that's not the purpose of life. That is the purpose. That is the purpose you're willing to kill for, not willing to die for. It's not necessary to die. Too well protected, too well preserved. Whilst, in a way, this is a frivolous online masterclass, which amounts to little more than a podcast, in another way, it's revealing about the mentality that underwrites our apparent democratic systems.
The challenge of life is to improve and to learn to love better. And everybody can do that. I'm George W. Bush, and this is Masterclass.
Well, we certainly are learning from the world's best, some of the world's best manipulators and liars. The world's best systems are presenting us with apparent alternatives when really nothing changes, unless you happen to live in the Middle East, when you might be bombed to death for literally no reason. So, what does this news story show us? It shows us that ultimately figures that are presented as villains one moment can be represented as heroes 10 years down the line, because the priority for the establishment is its own preservation while maintaining the appearance of democracy. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Give this video a thumbs up, share it around. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these. Do you like my hat? Is it too much? Is it fantastic? Please sign up to our mailing list right now so I can stay in direct contact with you in case the algorithm is against us. And on that note, turn on the notification bell immediately. More important than any of that, though, if you can, please stay free.
Okay, I just saw that come up on Facebook a day after what for the All Blacks was a calamity in Christchurch. So we went to bed early last night and we didn't watch the All Blacks game. And my husband got up. We were outside. Took us 2 hours to mow the lawns. So anyway, we're feeling quite tired. And so anyway, my husband went in and grabbed him a cold one and sat in front of the TV, switched it on, and it was the repeat of the All Blacks. So I sat and watched for a little while, and then we started losing. So I thought, oh no, I'm going to come in and do my live, and just realised by reading that, because I didn't watch it live last night, that we lost to the Pumas. Wow. So yeah. Oh, poor old Ian Foster, he'd be on the chopping block again. Who would want to be an All Black coach? But anyway, that just came up just before. So, whānau, why is that video of Russell Brand? Because everything he says, we can take parts out of it. We can learn from his videos. We can learn. I go on and I go through the comments as well, and it's all a learning curve. Let's learn together. Let's understand things together. Let's get other people's perspective. Let's put our own perspective in there. And I just you got to remember, he's got a whole team. He's got a whole team behind him, and but I guess the puku of the story, the guts of the story, was how a villain can be regurgitated years later as the hero, as the going from villain and represented as a hero. Makes his puku turn and makes my puku turn, considering that the policies that they created killed innocent people, destroyed economies, destroyed sovereign states, and really at the end of the day, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, they represent the same beast. Like the left and the right wing of the same bird, the left and the right cheek of the same nono, or in an article I think I wrote a number of years ago, the left or right fin of a shark. And that's what they are. That what you see is the preservation, and I just love it how Russell Brand peels away the layers and can look at this masterclass and then come up with, and I'm sure he's got producers and directors and researchers around him, and then come up with an analysis, I guess, of what that masterclass is actually saying, and trying to normalize war criminals. Basically, these people are war criminals, and now I thought of a thing, and I won't do it now because you're probably all a bit hoha with my voice at the moment, but how I'm going to do this Vera Sharav's videos. I won't actually show it. I won't share it on my stream. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll play parts of it, but I won't do it in this live. I'll have a bit of a break in this live, and I might come back later on this afternoon and do Vera Sharav's without playing it, because I'm concerned that by sharing it on my StreamYard, let's see if that Facebook page gets challenged by Facebook, because we're just going to listen to use our audio. But anyway, whānau, sorry if this is a bit of a boring session, but we have to remember, all of us that are standing, like we've got Māori wards, right? And we are all political opponents. Why are we all political opponents? We are political opponents if we are candidates running in, be it a local election or a central government election, because we're after the same vote. We're after the same vote. And what Russell Brand was trying to allude us to is that when they're in power, they are fierce opponents, and they try and create a contrast that there's good and there's basically evil, good and bad, good and bad. So they create these contrasts, but at the end of the day, they're all like that. They're all kissing cousins. So the contrast, and what he's saying is the masterclass is trying to bring them back to they've done their job, they've played their role, they've played their part, they've been able to achieve what these global elitists wanted them to achieve at a policy level, as leaders in their own sovereign states. We're all waking up to all of that. Gosh, what amazing time we are in. I can't say it's an exciting time, but there's always an opportunity. You know, we've got to show that Pollyanna side of us, that we're, through chaos, we create positive opportunities, because at the end of the day, we want a society that we're proud of, where there's, we respect each other's differences, we learn from our history, and we create a society for our children and for our grandchildren that they are not enslaved, because that's the key word, enslavement. We want our children to be free. We want our grandchildren to be free. And this nanny's going to fight for her mokopuna. So come along with me, stay with me. Wait until I tune in again later on, and I'll share. I won't share her video, but we'll have a listen to her kōrero, which is more important. Kia pai tō rā. I'll catch you up again shortly. Ka kite anō. Kia ora rā.